Alright, let's wind down with a nice easy one today. It has been a while since we looked at any Andy books, and I didn't think we have ever really took a look at one of the DC ones. This is the 1987 update, issue 5 of that. I mentioned this very casually in my review of Gangbuster issue 2. This has a profile for that character, which basically blows the secret identity element of that miniseries. I will be doing a lot of comparisons to Marvel's Andy books, which are my preference. But there are a couple of things I think DC improve upon. One thing is that they did do yearly updates after their initial series ended. For 2 or 3 years after that, they did updates like this. And that is much better than Marvel, who only did a single run that was considered updates rather than starting again from the letter A. Something that most of the Marvel Andy books had over DC's were Marvel had much better covers. Some of Marvel's Andy book covers are almost iconic, but DC's are entirely forgettable collages of characters. And I would also say there is a lot of bad things about the covers and their designs, and stuff with this one specifically. Not sure I really want to get into that because I didn't want to start off incredibly negative. So let's just get into this little blighter. I will quickly explain things. Andy books are supplementary material in the vein of encyclopedias. They catalogue the various superheroes and supervillains in their respective universes. We get a nice picture of them, which is a new piece of art by an artist associated with them. And then you get a biography, some statistics and facts, and finally their powers. DC's Andy books were a lot more comparable to the original run of Marvel's Andy books. Marvel got their first series was in 1983. Those ones are very brief and didn't gain much over the histories of the characters outside of their backgrounds. Most of them were single-page profiles, and these DC ones are similar. Single pages covering the sheer basics. I need to say, for the sake of it, in 1985, Marvel did their second series of Andy books and topped themselves with a much better offering. Characters had huge biographies and entries which covered all their major stories, and they often required several pages. Those are my favourite Andy books, but that's not to say that the first series or these DC ones are bad either. All this to say, I have no idea who this character is, but it has David Allen's art. So, on with the character profiles. We have 2 that I am more familiar with here. On the left is Ripley, the Time Bandit. After I did that Booster Gold video the other day, I thought of something to say about him, but I forgot what it was. And then Robert here, Jason Donovan. These are revised entries. Of course, DC had a big reboot called Christmas on Infinite Earths. And so this Robert entry reflects Jason Donovan's new origin. He no longer is the son of this writer's wish fulfillment. Instead, he is a street rat who tried to steal wheels from the Batmobile. His new origin was quite good. It was written by the same writer as Gangbuster. On the next pages, we have the Crimson Dynamos and the Toilet Brush Gang. One thing that I do like about the DC Andy books is that they have logos for all the characters. All the profile entries have their names in a logo. Marvel just had plain text. There are obviously some cases where characters don't have their own logos already. So I am guessing loads and loads of time was spent creating an actual logo for, say, the Toilet Brush Gang. Not that theirs is particularly exciting or complicated. It's just a little effort that is exclusive to DC's Andy books, and I appreciate. Before I debut the name of this character, I am going to point out this is how you spell his real name. 2 K's, not 3 A's. This is a mistake that DC over time have committed to. Anyway, I am going to call him Sebulba, because he looks like Sebulba from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which I saw at the cinema 4 or 5 times because I was 9, and that movie appealed to 9-year-olds. And also my dad, who maintains it is the best Star Wars movie. I am not ignoring this guy. He is a Smurf devil baddie. I just have nothing to really say about him. Unlike the next 2, which are Dr. Nirvana and Spectre. After Christmas on Infinite Earths, everything linked to Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Baston, was integrated into the main DC universe. It bothers me still to this day that DC didn't bother doing a series with Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Baston, for years after that. Sure, he had a big part in Legends. He was on the Justice League initially, and he had a mini-series establishing his new origin. But they really should have had him front and centre with his own ongoing title. And even something like Legends, it seems like an advertisement for such, but he didn't get one for over a decade after that. Spectre is a favourite of mine, and his revised entry here is to reflect the changes in his powers from his then ongoing series, which I wasn't a big fan of, despite the great cover to the first issue. Another aspect I like about DC's Andy books are, while they only have the one picture, they include like a montage in the background featuring in Spectre's case is Human Host, his supporting cast, and him spooking someone. I do like the efficiency with the pictures. This guy here is probably a better example of things squeezed into the backgrounds, but I have no idea who this is. And we have a good team entry on the next pages. Suicide Squad. I think at this point, they actually have managed to include everybody who had been a member up to then. Good stuff though, and the only entry in this issue that is more than one page. Now here is an area of contention. Superboy. This is the original Superboy, who was a younger version of Superman. Superboy was a continuity problem with Christmas on Infinite Earths rebooting Superman. And honestly, I do believe getting shot of Superboy was for the best. A complicated Superman, and he is an easy thing to get rid of. I didn't think they'd get rid of him though, at least not as you would imagine. He is in a Jason Bourne story after the reboot, which I have still not read. And now there are people who will absolutely, passionately disagree with me, but I didn't think Superboy was adding that much to comics. He was mainly presenting more and more continuity problems than he was worth. Plus, getting rid of him allowed them to introduce a new Superboy, who was his own character rather than a past version of Superman. And yeah, he wears a jacket, but he is much better than a slightly smaller Superman. I am going to skip these two because we have a laugh coming up. The two most influential comics side by side. Justice League Detroit and Watching Men. Albert Moore's true moment of pride is being adjacent to Justice League Detroit. I am confident in saying that they will have used this art for the cover of one of the 20,000 printings of Watching Men. After that, we have Gangbuster. And this profile says what his name is, so the mystery of his miniseries is spoilt. L. You can see his bloomin' face and all. Last thing I want to get to is the appendix, which is mainly depressing. The appendix adds tiny short updates for characters that didn't need a new entry, just for the tiny bit of new info. At least half of the updates here are just saying this character no longer exists. So that there is a DC Handbook issue. And I always like looking at these, but I never feel it appropriate to really assess them all that critically. If you are into this stuff, you'll like it. It's not for everyone. I am into it. I give them 7 thumbs up on account of that.